Oh my God. I seriously just sat here and was talking to myself about talking to myself, and it wasn't even recording, so I was legit talking to myself. Hello everybody! Welcome to episode number 2 of Sassy Knits. I am your host, Therese. If you are a returning viewer, thank you so much. Thank you so much for all the love you've given me on the first episode. It means a lot to me. I'm really just here to have a lot of fun, but obviously it's a lot more fun if even one other person is watching. So thank you to those who watched and thought, I'm gonna give this chick a chance. I really liked this episode and I think I like where this show is going. I'm gonna subscribe and I'm gonna keep watching. Maybe you subscribed and you're like, I'm not so sure, but I'll give her another chance. Hopefully you'll stick around with this one, but if not, that's all right. There's a lot of knitting podcasts out there, and one of them, or a few of them, are bound to be up your alley. So thanks for checking it out, and see you later. And for those of you who are new, which is probably a vast majority of you, thank you so much for tuning in on this one. When you're done this one, you've got some time to knit, or you need an excuse to knit, which never happens. Head back over and check that one out. I've got my coffee this week. Ting! And one of my favorite mugs because he looks like my kitty cat. But this is pretty good coffee. Remember in the last episode, I was talking about, I dropped it. I was talking about a chocolate. I was eating a chocolate called Choco Sol, and it's one of my favorite chocolates. And then I realized that they have coffee. These guys have coffee. Well, I got the coffee. It's really good, actually. I thought it might be a little bit more acidic because I don't think it's organic. I know, it makes me sound very pretentious. It's not organic coffee, but I do find taste-wise there is a difference. There's a whole reason why I do prefer organic coffee. If you want me to talk about it, I can, but you probably don't care. But a byproduct is that I do find it's less acidic than non-organic coffees. This one, I've been on the website, it doesn't say it is organic coffee. I think if it was, they would have said so, even if it's not certified, so I don't think that's something that they really care about. But they are very free trade. That's one of the reasons, is they have a free trade agreement, I don't know what that's called, but between Toronto, their office in Toronto, and a place in Mexico where they get their coffee and their coffee beans, green coffee beans and chocolate. And then it's shipped to Toronto in a special way that it's actually like less time like being shipped, so there's not a lot of time between when it's picked and when it's in Toronto. But in Toronto, here in Toronto, that's where I'm from, that it's roasted here. So it's actually roasted right here in Toronto. And it's very cool the way they do it. You can go to chocosoltraders.com. I gave the link out last week, but I'll put it in this description box. If you are at any way also concerned with making sure that people around the world get paid fairly for making the things that you enjoy, which I think is fair because you wouldn't want it to be any other way, right? This company is really great for that. So you can check that out. And the cool thing, I brought up this bag because it's super cool. This bag is compostable. This whole bag, it's lined inside with a plastic, but it's like a vegetable plastic. And the only thing you can't compost is the little tie, which you can recycle. But this whole thing, it just says it's made in Canada with chlorine-free, non-bleached paper, certified as sustainably harvested by the FSC, blah, blah, blah. The lining is made from a vegetable-based plastic, 100% petroleum-free, and certified compostable by ASTM 6400. I'm sure that means something. Please remove/recycle the tin tie and compost the bag in the green bin. Super cool. And as I said, the coffee tastes good. It's actually quite tasty. And this week's episode is brought to you by not just any chocolate, my homemade chocolate peanut butter cups. Yeah. The chocolate itself honestly isn't any crazy. but I'm gonna give you the recipe to this. The link will be in the description box below. It's my favorite peanut butter cup recipe. I am a freak for chocolate peanut butter together, and peanut butter cups are like the quintessential snack for me. I love it, and a few years ago I made them myself. Love them, but I don't make them often because I will eat all of them. So it's so simple. It's just melting chocolate, and you mix together peanut butter, cream cheese, a little bit of sugar, and some vanilla, and then that's it. And it is like, guys, look at that. Can you see that? It's amazing. It's amazing. It's from Chef Michael Smith, Canadian Chef Michael Smith. I'm gonna eat this. I'll edit this part out. It's so good. So let's move on to the knitting, shall we? I've got knitting. I've got knitting. I have 2 finished objects. That was, I don't know what that was. I just felt like I needed to put like a title in there. Maybe down the line I'll have like fancy titles for all the different sections. But anyway, so with the last episode I showed you guys that I finished a sock for Alan. It was the first time I knit a sock for Alan. And I just took this self-patterning Regia. Men's socks, they're huge. They take forever. Guys, look. It's almost the size of my head. Like, why are they, I could make a scarf out of this. I could put 2 together and like make a scarf out of it. Men's feet are so big. Anyway, this is probably where I won't be making them too many. It takes too long. So I made him a scarf, a sock scarf. I made him a sock last week, or the last time I showed you guys. I can't speak any at all today. And I had mentioned that it was the first time that I'd ever done afterthought heel. And so I did 2 socks. So now he can actually wear them. He hasn't worn them yet. He said he liked them. He hasn't worn them yet. You know what that means, right? I might make him 1 more pair in a thinner sock weight. And if he doesn't wear that one either, he gets nothing else. Just saying. Anyway, it's a good experience for me. So the problem I had, and I had mentioned before, was it was my first time doing an afterthought heel, which was really great because I wanted to do it because I didn't want to interrupt the pattern. And gosh, like, did that not work out if you guys can see it. It worked out perfectly, that pattern. Oh, it worked out great. So afterthought heels are not nearly as complicated as they seem. The downside I had is I did do it toe up, and the first time, I don't remember which one. I think it was this one. Whatever. No, it was this one. I started the toe using the same amount of stitches as I normally make my socks out of, and he said it was a little bit too tight in the toe. So with this one, I cast on, I think, 18 stitches instead of 12. Something like that. I made them bigger. He said they were better. And then with the heel, the first time I did the heel, I just followed these instructions that I had, and they were way too long. It was, I don't even know which one it was. It was way too long, and so when he put it on, everything fit, but at the back of the heel, it pointed out, like you could grab it, like you can grab like the back here. You could grab it. So I had to go back in. When I was doing that part on the other foot, I had him try on the sock before. Once I picked out the stitches and I put the needles in, I put it on the cable and let him try it on so I could figure out when to close it. I'll be honest, I was a little freaked out when it basically said I could have closed it right then and there, because there would have been 28 stitches on both needles, not all together, which is kind of what you would want for a bigger heel. There was 20, this is how I had to cast it off. Like, it's weird. I had to cast off right here. But when he put it on, they fit. So it's one of those things that sometimes, although it's weird to not follow the instructions, you just have to go with the fit of the foot. So that's what I did, 28 stitches on both needles, on both socks, because I went in and fixed the other pair. And the only downside, the only thing I don't like about it, it was my first time doing an afterthought heel, and I did a Kitchener stitch to close it, but you can see that it kind of just juts out, and when he wears it, it juts out a little bit. I think it's a little less now that I've washed them, but the side juts out. About 10 minutes after I had actually finished both socks, I read how you can actually round the corners on a Kitchener stitch. So I'll do that for I'm gonna try an afterthought heel again on my next pair of socks because I have a self-patterning for that too, so I wanna give it a try. So that's the only thing that I'm unhappy about when it comes to these socks, other than the fact that he hasn't worn them yet, is the fact that the Kitchener stitch here is it just pokes out. It's got little ears. But now apparently I know how to fix that. So that's done. And then I showed you the cowl I made last week. I keep saying last week, with the last show. And it was with the yarn that Alan had got me for Christmas, the Louisa Harding self-striping yarn. I had some left over and I knew I was gonna make a hat out of it. I guess technically it's not a finished object, but it's a hat, so it's a finished object. So I made it. Isn't that nice? This is how the other one was. It was cabled this way, so you couldn't really see what the actual yarn was dyed up to look like. That's what it's dyed up to look like. Isn't it stunning? So the reason why it's not finished is I want to add a pom-pom to it. I want to add a faux fur pom-pom. I'm thinking either purple or like a light blue like that. My only complaint, and what I wish I had done, is I wish I had doubled the brim so I could fold it over, because it's still kind of warm on my head because it's wool and silk, but it is a bit thinner, like you can see through it. It's a bit thinner, so it's not as warm as I'd like. With the cowl, I had doubled up on the yarn, so it was thicker. In one sense, I wish I had done that with this one, but if I did, I wouldn't have had enough yarn left, because when I got to about here, I actually had to start the other, finish the other ball. Thankfully, you wouldn't even notice with the color, it turned out perfectly. So I wouldn't have been able to double up anyway, but I would have been able to at least double this and let it sit on my head better. I still love it though. It's still lovely, and it's still nice and soft, and just, I love it. And the colors are beautiful. So I just want to get that pom-pom, and then that one will be done. And guys, that is honestly it for finished projects. Not because I haven't been working on anything. I lied to you in the last show. In the last show, I told you guys that I am a monogamous knitter. I hope to go back and notice that maybe I said I'm mostly a monogamous knitter, because I have 2 projects on the go right now. And I will tell you why. I got 99 problems, and lace is every single one of them. So, first and foremost, obviously, this is what you do in knitting videos, is you show your project bag. This is my really fancy homemade project bag that I got really expensively on Etsy. No, it is not. To be honest, what used to be in this bag was expensive, and it was handmade. I honestly, RC Bois Jolie, is that what I think is what this is trying to say. He is a local ceramics maker. There's nothing else on here, and I don't have his card anymore. I think I gave the card away. Anyway, it does say quality ceramics and domestic goods. I'm pretty sure it's RC Bois Jolie. And first and foremost, that man has the most epic mustache, because I met the man, that you will ever see. It is so beautiful. It is well done. I actually bought some Christmas presents from him at a market here in Toronto this year. But this is kind of what I keep my projects in. I have one project bag, legit project bag, that I showed you in the last show that I got for Christmas. Everything else goes into bags like this, and the one I'll show you in a minute. So, it's a little crinkly, my apologies. I decided, I'm going to talk about goals a little later in the show, But I decided this year that one of the things I wanted to do was to challenge myself in knitting in general and not to be too afraid to try something new, because for 10 years of me knitting, all I ever did was stick to triangles. I stuck to squares and rectangles. So last year when I decided to take up socks, that just opened a floodgate for me, and I'm like, the world is my oyster, and even if it looks bad, I don't care. I just want to knit. And the only way you're going to become a better knitter is to keep trying things. Like, I'm sorry, if you've been sitting and practicing your knits and your purls for a year, guys, it's time to move on. It takes you 1 minute to learn how to knit and another minute to learn how to purl, and then you can do almost anything. You just have to branch out there and do something new. So what I decided to do this year, in the summertime, I went to an inventory sale at my local yarn store, and oh my goodness, when you guys started knitting, did you notice maybe online or in the book maybe that you were taught, or maybe the people around you, there was a specific brand of yarn where you thought that is like the luxury in yarn? Like that is like the specific brand, maybe not so much the base is kind of what you want to go on, but the brand itself. For me, that was Noro. I taught myself how to knit through Stitch and Bitch, and I think there was a couple of yarns that they used in Stitch and Bitch that was Noro, or maybe it was some other things. And I thought that that was the end all and be all of luxury yarn. So I never bought it though, because it was expensive yarn. And when I started to learn how to knit, I didn't have that kind of money. I was just getting stuff at Michael's all the time. So in the summertime, I was down at the inventory sale and they had Noro on sale. Now, sometimes I can be really judicious in the things that I buy, and sometimes I'm just really spontaneous. And because it was Noro and there were 3 skeins left, I didn't even care what colorway it was. I didn't care what weight it was. I picked up all 3 because they were only $5 a pop. That ain't bad for Noro. But I've kept it this whole time because then all of a sudden I realized it was lace weight, and I had no idea how to knit with lace. I've never knit with lace before, and the people who talk about lace tend to complain about lace. So I decided, because I don't do things just half-assed, I decided that not only was I going to break out this lace weight and learn how to use lace, I was also going to A, use lace for the first time, B, make my first shawl, and C, it would be a garter lace shawl. It would be a lace shawl, which I've only ever kind of done a little dabbled in lace before, like actually knitting lace. So all 3 of those things were new, and that is what I decided to make. I went on Ravelry and I found that it's actually from Noro because I looked at the yarn itself and saw what people were knitting with it. And I liked the shawl, and it turned out that this shawl pattern was from Noro. So I'm gonna just show it to you, and then we gotta have a conversation. Like, I need to talk to you guys right now. So this is what it's looking like. It is called, I'm gonna take my instructions out. It is the Garter Lace Triangle Shawl from Noro magazine. You can get on Ravelry. This is what it looks like. Right now it's just a triangle. So it does some garter. It's got a lot of garter in it. Then it turns to a little bit of lace, and then some garter, then some lace. I have not tried other Noro weights, but Noro lace, some of it I don't mind, but it's not ideal when you spend money on yarn. I'm not complaining about this one because it only cost me $5, so whatever. It's a $5 skein of yarn, but it's not normally a $5 skein of yarn. Like, Noro is not crazy cheap. It's kind of in between the affordable and the luxury, right? So I can't really tell you or show you too much here, but I could probably show you more on the actual thing itself. So what happens is with the yarn, it's lace weight, obviously, so it's a very thin yarn, right? This is kind of typically how it would look. I don't even know if this is going to focus properly because it's so thin. So you get your typical lace weight. It's very thin. It's just like string, right? But with this particular yarn, you can get what is what lace regularly looks like, but then, and there's no, it's like I'm lying to you here. You can almost see it right here. it gets super spindly. So it's very, very, very fine. And then you get parts, you can kind of see it up here, where it gets thicker. In fact, there's some parts in and of itself that are completely unspun. See, this is a perfect example because I'm going to talk about this piece in a minute. So it starts here and then it's totally unspun. So if you don't mind that kind of rustic look in your knitting, cool. It's throughout the whole thing. Like there are chunks, you can see it right here. Chunks of unspun yarn. And then there's sections of very spindly, thin pieces of yarn too. Then, as I was knitting, I went to go adjust how much yarn I had, and I looked down and I'm like, did I just run out of yarn? Is my skein done? This is supposed to be a one skein shawl. That's why I chose it. No, it just came apart in the middle of the skein. So in the middle of my shawl. So I have this piece here, and then I have this piece here that I'm gonna have to weave in. And I'm glad I caught it right then and there, or else it would have been a pain in the butt to actually have to reattach the next part of the skein. So it actually just came apart. And reading a lot of the reviews for this yarn, it's very common. I mean, nobody wants to talk negatively about yarn, and like we're such a positive community. I can't really say too much good about that yarn. I've seen other colorways, so I'm not gonna say like, it totally sucks. The other colorways are actually really kind of nice. There's some if that was in the basket, I would have chosen that, but I was kind of just like, give me all the yarn, like everything was on sale, and I was just picking up everything. I'm like, no! Like it was sad. It was a little bit of a desperate grab for yarn. I grabbed 3 skeins of that. So if you guys really love that colorway and you don't care what the yarn does and you want to do a swap, let me know, because I have 2 other skeins I'd like to get rid of. But I am going to finish that shawl, regardless of the fact that it's not my colors. I'm not a huge fan of the yarn. It's not that I'm not enjoying the process of knitting. I am a process and a product knitter, and I still really don't mind working on it. It's not a difficult shawl. Like I said, I'm calling it my skill building shawl. So I don't quit easily, and I would rather use up that skein and finish that shawl. Maybe someone else is gonna like it. Maybe somebody else loves those colors. And once it's on, you're not gonna care that there's some mistakes in it. You're not even gonna notice it. So I'm gonna keep finishing it because I like the fact that I'm working with a lace weight and I wanna get used to it. But I'm not going to use that. I don't think I'm going to use that yarn again. I still wouldn't mind trying a different weight of Noro. I mean, it's popular for a reason, right? Or maybe if you've used another weight, let me know. Like, is it the same for the whole brand or just the lace weight? I don't know. Either way, the one thing I will say is, other than the error on the pattern, which you can get the correction for on the Ravelry page for it. They haven't actually corrected it itself from the magazine. It's a really easy pattern. If you're looking for something super simple to get your feet wet in, as far as lace shawls go, or using lace weight, it's a good one. I do recommend that one, and I am going to finish it and I'm going to block it. And if somebody wants it, great. If not, I'll just keep it to bring out and show people my first shawl. That's all. So the reason I wasn't monogamous was because I was sitting there going, I need a break. I need a break. Probably after the actual skein, like the thread broke, I said I needed a break. So I wanted to start something I was going to really look forward to. Originally, I was going to start a sweater, an Isabel Kramer sweater. And I went to my local yarn shop to get my skeins wound. And when I got home, I realized I didn't want to start that one because it's also lace weight, and I don't think I want to just stick with lace weight for the next little while, because the sweater is going to take a long time, and I'm still working on this one. And I think I don't, unless you totally love working with lace, I think you need to have lace in conjunction with something easier to work with. So The sweater is gonna come after I'm done with the shawl. I just need to get some new needles and I'm ready to go. It's gonna be gorgeous. However, I have started something new and I'm kind of obsessed. In the last show, I showed you guys the yarn, the only yarn so far I have ever seen that the moment I saw it with, my heart just jumped out into the Instagram screen and just attached itself to it. And I grabbed it, and that was the Blue Brick, her ombre yarn in Peggy's Cove. This. Doesn't it look, see, hopefully you've seen the last episode, because I show it to you in the actual hank. This is what it looks like bound up. There's actually, because I'll show you in a moment, there's a darker part that's around it. But I started this, and I started another shawl, and this is what I've got going. So this is the dark part. It starts at the bottom here, and it works its way up. And now I'm starting to go into this color combination, and it'll slowly fade into this and end in that gorgeous blue in here. And so when I got this skein, I didn't know what I was going to do with it. I just knew, my heart told me I needed that colorway in my life. Like, this is like what my soul looks like. I think my soul is these colors. I think this is why. This is me right here. You want to know what I love? It's this right here. And all I knew is I needed the skein, the color in my life. I didn't know what I was going to do with it. But what I decided to do is, you know, sometimes you have a project in mind and you buy the yarn for it. Sometimes you're sitting at the yarn and you're like, I'm just sitting here staring at the yarn, wishing it would tell me what it wanted to be. You know what I mean? And that was kind of the case with this. And what came to me, the yarn spoke to me, and it said, you need to show me off to everybody in the world. So I decided to make a shawl, another shawl, because I wanted, more than anything, you can make hats with these. Shireen has an actual book all about how to use her ombre yarns, and she gives you tons of patterns on how you can use it. I would love to pick that book up. I know she's working on another one, but I want to buy all of her skeins and I want to make stuff out of all of them. But with this one in particular, this Peggy's Cove one, I wanted to show off the color gradients because it is so stunning. So I don't have the full picture here. Let me look it up. I'll look it up for you. I actually decided to choose one of her patterns. She has some patterns on Ravelry, and I thought that would be the best way to show off her own yarns, is to choose one of her own patterns. I have to log in again. Let's go in here, go to Q. Okay, so it's called Emmy. Hopefully you guys can see that. Isn't that stunning? It's really gonna show off the colors. It's oh my gosh, it's gonna be so nice, and it's such an enjoyable pattern. Even I've only started this 2 days ago, and I had to actually rip a chunk of it out yesterday because I took it with me to my knitting group, and I was off by 5 stitches by the time I left because I was just too busy chatting away, so I'd had to fix it. But it's such an enjoyable knit, not only because you know it's going to turn into something stunning, and to be able to watch already, you can see, I don't know if the light's going to show it, but you can already see just how gradual, I'm showing you guys this down here, just how gradual the colors go from the dark. It's so subtle, you almost miss it. And I've actually been going a little bit lighter up in these ones right here. I don't know how she does it. I'm sure it takes like 500 hours to do each ball. Like, it's ridiculous. This stuff should be 50 bucks a pop, and it's not, and it should be. But I'm also learned, like, check out this. I've never used this stitch before. Do you see that stitch? It's a new to me stitch, and it is so beautiful. It's called a bamboo stitch. And all you have to do, did I show it to you guys sideways? Am I like just that dense? Let's do that again. It's a bamboo stitch, and it's super easy. All you do is you slip one stitch knitwise, then you knit a stitch, you yarn over a stitch, and then you pass the slipped stitch over the knitted stitch and the yarn over and off the needle, and that creates this beautiful stitch pattern. So it's, so far the instructions are pretty easy to read. Normally I like charts, not really into this, how that works. It's just, I do better when I just see like an actual graph and I can see the numbers and stuff. It's easier for me, but she has the written, it here written, and that's all I needed to go on. And it's such an enjoyable knit, whereas the garter one can, I wouldn't say it's enjoyable, but it's not unenjoyable, but it can be frustrating because of the yarn. So it was frustrating me a little bit, but this is enjoyable. This is addicting. The pattern, because it's actually quite easy, and it's so pretty because of this new stitch, and it's so nice, and because of this stunning yarn, you're not going to want to stop knitting it. Like, you're not going to want to stop knitting it at all. So I feel like I want to buy all of her yarns and make like one of these shawls in every one of her yarns, so you can actually see what the colors look like. There's a few other of her yarn colors that colorways that I really wanted to get. I can't remember the names offhand. I think one is Seafoam. Just stop. Like, it looks, you look at it knit up, and you go, oh yeah, that's a beach, and it's a beach going into the water. Like, you see it right there knitted up. Like, girlfriend, I don't know how you do it. So I'd like to share with you guys the things that I'm digging the most from one show to the next. And I actually wanted to talk about this on the last show, but I didn't write it down in my show notes, so I forgot to tell you, because I have to write down everything these days. My favorite thing of the month, really, is the yoga challenge that I'm doing. Just before the holidays hit, I knew that I needed to slow down in general. So last year was a big year for that for me, just on a personal note. I really had to teach myself to slow down, and I also realized that I needed to exhibit fierce grace for myself, because as much as I don't put myself down a lot anymore, something I used to do a lot of negative thinking, I'm very hard on myself. And for a good 6 years or so, I was really hard on myself, and it just wasn't doing my brain very well at all. So part of me learning, I thought I put this on. Nope. Hi Anna Hayes, you just subscribed to me on YouTube. Hello. Part of that, this is going to be a lot of editing because it's hard for me to articulate kind of the things that I'm kind of going through right now in my life that way. But part of that was to also exhibit grace in my workouts and in my body. And 2018, my big theme for the year is fierce grace. I'm going to talk about that with my goals coming up. And so that meant even physically moving my body, I wanted to show it kindness, fierce love and kindness. So I knew it was time to kind of bring some yoga into my life. And at the time, I had already been subscribed to Yoga with Adrienne here on YouTube. And she said, for like 5 years now, she's been putting out free, full length, like an entire class of a yoga video every single week. The one thing we really have in common as knitters is that we know the power of knitting helps to calm us down and gets us into that relaxed state. But the problem is knitting is also a very passive activity. And we don't want to be, in our last few years of our life, not being able to move around very much because we have a terrible bad back or wrists hurt or, a myriad of things. And so it's really important that you get up and you move or you knit properly. I really want to learn more about ergonomics when it comes to knitting and to get up and move your body. It's just, and it doesn't have to be anything crazy. It could be going for a walk, getting up and making sure that you don't sit for over an hour at a time knitting. You get up every 45 minutes to an hour. Just do something before you sit back down again. It's going to be really important to you. With this particular challenge with Adrienne, she calls it True, you can be a total beginner. It's very beginner friendly, and I am loving how I've been changing up here, as well as how I'm changing physically as well, but mostly, and it's exactly what I wanted, it's me to move my body on a daily basis, no more than 20 to 30 minutes a day, and I feel in here and in here, I feel so much better. So that is my favorite thing for the month. It's kind of long and convoluted, but I highly recommend doing it. If you don't care about yoga, get up, go for a walk. It's from me to you, from someone who cares, and I know your family cares about you too. It's so important, especially as we get older, any time in our life, but especially as we get older, and us knitters just want to sit and knit all day. You need to get up. If you want to get a bag that has your knitting in it and you can do like a walking meditation, you can walk and you can knit at the same time, even better. Like, why not? Then you don't even have to stop. It'd be amazing. We should do that. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to talk about goals. In particular, I want to talk about knitting goals. Do you guys make knitting goals? I don't know about you, but I'm a big goal person. And so since I got back into knitting, obviously I have some knitting goals, and I wanted to share them with you this time around. I wrote some of them down. I didn't make too many because when it comes to goals, a lot of people don't follow through on their goals because A, they're making goals that they actually don't really want in their heart. They don't really care about. They just make goals based on what they think they should make goals out of. And B, they make too many changes. It's not a good thing. But I've been thinking about these knitting goals. They're fun goals that I can challenge myself with, which is kind of my goal for the year. Overall knitting goal is to do fun stuff that kind of challenges me in new and interesting ways. So I just have a couple, and none of them I'm going to be sad about if I don't achieve by the end of the year, because it's knitting. It's not that big a deal. So one of my goals is to actually knit a pair of socks every month for the year. I saw a whole bunch of people at the end of the year, they had their box of socks, or they were participating in knit-alongs where it's like knit a pair of socks, and if you do it for a whole year, you could like win a prize or something like that. And I thought that would be fun. I almost hit the 12 sock mark last year inadvertently, but I thought this year I wanted to do it. I wanted to do it consciously because my overall sock goal is to finally get to a point where I have a pair of socks where I don't even have to think about it. Like a pair of vanilla socks, I know like the back of my hand for myself. So I want to do that. I've made a pair of socks already. It's for Alan. I don't know if that counts, but it's a pair of socks, right? So it's all good. It's all good. So I want to make a pair of socks every month for the next 12 months. I have my knits here, or my notes for my knits. I want to learn brioche. It's one of the things I want to learn this year is I want to learn brioche. On top of that, one of my goals is to knit a Steve & West shawl. So that's kind of 2 in 1 right there. I haven't decided. I go back and forth between, do I want to do Exploration Station or Speckle and Pop? I've already bought the Speckle and Pop pattern, but then the other side of me is like, ooh, but I think Exploration Station might be more fun. I don't know. I mean, I'd like to do both. Eventually, either this year or this year and next year, I'll have both done. I just don't know what I want to do first, but both have brioche in them. So I'm like knocking 2 goals out at once by doing these shawls, a Steve & West shawl and learning brioche. But it looks so beautiful, and I love the idea of a high contrast brioche where it's like, I don't know, like a cream or a white with like a shocking blue, like a fluorescent blue in the middle. I just think it's the coolest look ever. So I want to learn brioche this year. I want to attend 1 or 2 events, because one of my overall goals, personal goals for the year, is to get more connected with people. I'm an introvert. I'm a stay-at-home mom right now. I don't go out a lot. It's not what I do, but I want to meet more people, especially in the knitting community. It's one of the reasons I started this podcast. So I do want to attend at least 1 or 2 events this year. And so that's another one of my knitting goals. I feel like I'm missing something. I had them written down, but I think it's like different from what I actually wanted. I want to knit my son a sweater. he's been asking me for a rainbow sweater. Like, I asked him what color and he said rainbow. I'm like, oh, okay. So he wants a rainbow sweater. So I'm thinking of the flax sweater by Tin Can Knits, maybe flax light, because he heats up a lot. He's like my little hot water bottle, so he doesn't need anything too heavy. So I'm thinking the light, and he wants a rainbow. So I'm thinking of getting either self-stripe. I'd rather get like a rainbow self-striping because I don't want to put all those colors together. Although I just did see, and I totally forgot who the dyer was, where she actually made a yarn that it's like a denim color almost most of the way up, and then it has rainbow stripes and then denim again, that denim color again, and it like creates its own sweater. I have to double check that. If I can find it, I'll put it here. If not, sorry, I'll see if I can find it later. But that yarn I think would be perfect because it's got the rainbow in there, and it's made like I don't have to worry about adding a million colors and having to weave in a bunch of ends. Speaking of colors, I'd like to dabble in color work. This isn't a huge goal, but it's something I'm interested in. I'd like to try something with a little bit of color work because that's something other than striping, like big stripes. I've never really done color work before. So I want to do that. I know that it sounds like color work is going to be the big trend of 2018 when it comes to knitting, but I'd like to dabble, either make a pair of socks or some mittens or a hat or something, or a sweater where it just has a little bit of color work. I'd like to try it. I'd like to try it, get my hands dirty, see what's going on. I feel like there's something else and I just didn't make proper notes. Stephen Must shawl. I wanted to make my first shawl, so I'm making that right now. So that is very important to me. Learn brioche, dabble in color work, attend an event or two, maybe 3. And I think that's it. So I'm turning the tables over to you. What are your knitting goals for this year? I want to hear down in the description box. You can't write in my description box. What you doing right in my description box? I want you to tell me in the comments what your knitting goal or goals are for 2018. I do have a few personal goals. Again, this year I've toned my goals down big time. I used to go big or go home for my goals, but I'm really taking a back seat this year when it comes to stuff like that, and really just getting in touch with who I am and what I truly want. So my goals are very simple this year. They're based off of my core desired feelings, what I really want to feel in my heart. So I mentioned I do want to feel more connected. It doesn't mean I have to get out every single day and not be the person that, like, I'm not a person who goes out all the time. I'm not one who parties all the time and does events and all of that kind of stuff. But I do want to get connected more. It's gonna sound funny, but I want to be turned on more, which actually just means I want to be more excited for things. I want to plan things that excite me, or plan things in my day that really gets me going. Like the blue brick shawl that I'm doing excites me. I'm looking forward to it, or doing things with my family that I get excited about. I want to do more of that this year. Practicing fierce grace is one of my biggest goals for the year, which seems like such a funny goal, is just to be more kind to myself in everything that I do. And so far so good. I just keep, when I feel guilty for something or feel like I should do something, even though my heart's saying no, just your joy is over here right now, I just say fierce grace and I move on. And it's great. Oh my gosh, it is so freeing to just practice that kindness, because when you practice that kindness, you lean into joy so much more. You start doing the things that give you joy, and it's been great. It's been awesome. I've been quite happy about it so far. It's not even February yet. I want to feel more free this year and to do the things that make me feel free. So what does that mean to me? It means if it is not a hell yeah, then it's a hell no, and I don't do it. That's what feeling liberated and free means to me. If I don't feel a jump for joy in my heart when someone asks me to do something, or if the opportunity arises to do something. And it used to be, if an opportunity happened, I would say yes anyway, because it's an opportunity and they don't always come. But sometimes opportunities aren't in your best interest and you should say no. And I was not someone who would say no to things like that often. But not anymore. If it is not a hell yeah, it's a hell no. And in so doing, it gives me the grace to not do as much, to not feel like I have to do everything and anything. I just want to be with my family right now. I spent 6 years of my life thinking business, business, business. And that was before I was pregnant, when I was pregnant, and after I had my son. And I don't feel that I was able to really lean into being a mother as much as I could have, because I was too busy going, yeah, but I'm a business owner. I'm a business owner. I'm a business owner. He'll thank me when I'm older, right? And I feel like I did a disservice, not to him, because he feels loved. We are good. He's a happy kid. He feels love. I'm happy about that. But for me, I never truly accepted my role as his mom. And so one of my goals this year is to accept that role and lean into it, because he's going to kindergarten next year already. And I feel like just now, I feel like I'm getting into that role. And because we only have a few short, precious months left together, I want to experience all of it before he goes, because we will always have experiences together, but this time right here, right now is never going to happen again. And I just want to lean into that. You can say I'm leaning into a lot of things, and it's leaning into my life. It's leaning into joy. It's leaning into feeling good, and not so much feeling like I have to do everything and be everything. You know, I don't know if this is just like some sort of almost midlife crisis I'm going through, but I just feel like it's time to slow the F down. You know what I mean? So those are some of my goals for the year. It's nothing crazy. It's, for the first time, it's not financial or career oriented. It's life oriented. And I know I have other little goals in mind, but I think all of those will happen when I stop I stop doing the things I think I should be doing, and I start doing the things that my heart and my soul say yes to. So do you have personal goals you want to share? Something that may help to keep you accountable? I'd love to hear that too, but I especially want to hear your knitting goals. I'm super excited to make my knitting goals happen. I think those are just gonna, oh, that was a goal. Oh my goodness, my queue. How could I forget my queue? Hold the phone. I don't know if you guys have seen on Ravelry, they have a new section in your queue. If you do the little like ellipses or whatever it's called, the little dot, it'll have a challenge. And you can write in however the number of the challenges you want to do in that year. It could be 1,000 if you want. I put 20. I might adjust it down the line. And the whole point is when you put those challenges in there, however, again, I chose 20. Your goal is to knit 20 items within the year. And so I thought I would accept that challenge. I don't know how you guys use the queue. I know in Ravelry, I know a lot of people use the queue to just throw everything they've ever seen in Ravelry on there that they ever want to make. I use my queue a little more judiciously. I throw everything I ever want to make in my library section, and then the projects I know I'm gonna make, I know for a fact, maybe I already have the yarn for, or I bought the pattern for, or I just really want, I'll put in my queue. Right now I think I only have like 9 things in my queue. Actually I have to move one of them over because one of them is the Emmy pattern from Blue Brick. But that's what I use the queue for, and I have to add more onto it. So one of my big knitting goals is to knit those 20 objects. It doesn't mean 20 things in the queue. It might include a whole bunch of those vanilla socks. But so if you go into, you can follow me on Ravelry. It's Therese Knit Stuff, and all one word. And you can look at my queue if you want. It's not full yet, but you can see the projects I'm working on, or I want to work on, I should say. I may switch them out here and there, but that's where you see the most up-to-date things that I'm looking at. And of course, because I love everything Andrea Mowry puts out there, I have the Comfort Fade Cardi on there. It was actually something I had wanted to make for my January 1st cast on, but it didn't happen. I have the fade in mind, something new and challenging, and colors I know will look good, but is not in my normal color palette. They are not the color of my soul that I showed you, but I haven't yet found those actual colors yet. So until I find those, I'm not making it yet, but I've got the pattern tonight and I'm ready. But that is a specific one I do want to make. And anyway, so that's the other part of my knitting goal that I want, is to get through that challenge. Are you guys doing the challenge? Do you guys know about it? It's on the home page of Ravelry when you go in there. She kind of walks you through it, but let me know if you're doing that, because I'm very excited about it. Thank you so much for hanging out with me for this second episode of Sassy Knits. I'm so super grateful for all of your love and support and continued support, and for the support in the future. And support, thank you. Forever. I'm Canadian. I'm gonna thank you all the freaking time. And you can reach me anytime on Instagram at Sassy Knits Podcast. That is my Instagram handle. You can also send me emails anytime. Same handle, sassyknitspodcast@gmail.com, for if any reason you need to email me. I need to stop calling you guys. Like, what is this, the Goonies? Hey, you guys! I need a shirt, right? You guys!